fog is a liar. At 6:47 a.m. on November 3rd, 1944, a thick fog enveloped the rubble at the French meter. The cold, damp weather, like a cloak, promised to provide concealment and safety. And in a destroyed bakery, 22-year-old Link Michael Donovan is praying that it will remain. He had been fighting for 6 months, and through a large crack in the bakery wall, he saw the world gradually emerging in shades of gray. Across the road, the German military positions slowly formed like shadows as the sun began to rise weakly. Donovan was a sniper. His job on paper was quite simple: find and eliminate the enemy snipers before they can kill the soldiers of the 5th Infantry Division. But in reality, it was more like a suicide mission. The problem wasn't the city. Metz is a fortress with over 200 defensive positions, bunkers, and overlapping fire systems. But the real deadly problem came from the German snipers. They are very different, invisible, patient, and they are hunting him down. Donovan is not a rookie. He graduated with honors from the sniper course at Fort Benning, equipped with the legendary 1903 Springfield, a rifle with an accuracy of up to 800 Y and a scope capable of providing clear images of opponents. But none of that mattered because the Germans were always the first to spot him, without exception. As of early November, the 5th Infantry Division had lost 23 American snipers in the war. Think about that number. These 23 weren't infantrymen running into the line of fire, but 23 snipers, the most elite sharpshooters in their squads. The predators became the prey. 23 beds are empty. The 23 letters sent home began with an exclamation. We regret to announce that 23 men were wiped out, all dying in the same way, shot while searching for a target they never found. Donovan tried to solve this problem. He interviewed the supervisors, nurses, and survivors. The pattern is always the same: a perfect shot from an angle nobody notices. The Germans perfected a tactic called DPL, meaning double position, simple but deadly. A German sniper team would prepare 2 cover positions 30, 50, or even 100 yards apart. They will fire a shot from position A. As soon as the shot rings out, the American sniper team will rush into cover and do exactly what they have been trained to do: scan the area for gunlight illumination, determine the firing location, and search for the enemy. This takes between 12 and 20 seconds. Time to adjust the lens, catch your breath, and search through the rubble. Look for the gleaming light of the steel. But it was a trap because the German sniper had disappeared. They fired and then immediately moved, bypassing a trench, pipe, or drain to position B. And from position B, they did not take cover. They were waiting to target the area where the American sniper team should be located. At the moment Donovan or his teammates pointed their scopes at position A, the German sniper pulled the trigger from position B. The math was simple: a ruthless but perfect plan. The Americans are searching, the Germans are aiming. The Germans always shot first. Donovan's first friend was Corporal James Bradley, a farm boy from Nebraska, who, according to stories, could shoot a running rabbit from 200 yards away. Within 3 weeks, he had 9 confirmed gunshot wounds. They were in a collapsed textile factory. Bradley was looking through his binoculars at a factory 400 yards away. Donovan was looking around. There was no sound, no warning, just the sound of gunfire cutting through the air, and a second later the sound of the bullet hitting its target. A 7.92mm bullet from the mare struck Bradley in the head. He died before his body reached the ceiling. The bullet came from a side window 400 yards away. Donovan couldn't light the gun barrel. He fired 3 shots at the window, acting on instinct. But he knew that the person who had been eating with him 10 minutes earlier was no longer there. The enemy sniper spotted them, took aim, fired, and probably disappeared before Donovan knew they were being hunted. Bradley died instantly. Donovan had to bring his brother's body back by sunset. The leadership has sent a replacement. The line must be held. The mission continues. His second companion was Link Robert Chun on October 29, just 11 days after Bradley's death. Chun was different. He wasn't just a farmer's boy. He comes from San Francisco with sharp eyes and steady, confident hands, and has 12 confirmed shots. He is an artist with Springfield trees. They have been working together for 8 days, sharing whispered conversations, the colors of stale bread. They both encompass each other in a new area. Beside a trench, Chun was looking through his eyes. Donovan was observing, repeating the process as before. A snap, a click, but this time it was different. The bullet struck Chun in the chest, piercing his lung. Chun looked at Donovan in confusion. He tried to speak, but then began to have difficulty breathing, making a strange sound. Donovan rushed forward and tore off Chun's bandage. He pressed the bandage onto the wound, but the blood was frothing out. Chun is lying in his own blood on a dusty floor in France. Donovan yelled for a nurse. He kept pressing down on Chun, saying, "Try to conserve your strength. I told you everything will be all right." Chen's eyes widened. He was still conscious but terrified. He lived for 40 minutes. 40 minutes? Donovan clutched the wound tightly, pressing hard against it, crying out desperately for help while the machine gun fire continued, watching his friend and comrade suffocate. A signal from a German sniper was detected from a pile of rubble about 350 meters away. After being crushed to death and nurses arriving to declare him dead, Donovan once again found himself in a state of loneliness. The sharpshooter, TUC, had left a long time ago. He had probably been watching them for an hour. Everything unfolded like an unbreakable process. The American sniper sets up his position. The American sniper searches. The German sniper prepares to shoot, and the American sniper dies. The superiors continued to issue useless directives. Keep moving, constantly changing positions, and using the terrain for cover. They don't understand. They don't see the problem. Donovan sees it every time he closes his eyes trying to sleep. The image shows Bradley falling like a puppet with its strings cut. The image shows a pair of wide-eyed, gasping eyes. For the next 3 nights, Donovan did not sleep but sat in the darkness, the cold gun in his hand, staring intently through the scope. He realized that the scope was the problem. Looking through an 8 times magnification scope, your entire world shrinks. It's like watching war through a roll of toilet paper. You can clearly see one window 400 meters away, but you cannot see another window just 15 meters to your left. You can't see the roof above your head. You can't see the wreckage behind you. Everything outside that narrow perspective becomes invisible, and the German snipers knew this well. They did not attack within the visible area. They attacked the person holding the scope. They exploited this blindness ruthlessly. They fired from positions that the American soldiers wouldn't notice. As a frustrated American sniper turned his sights toward a new area, the German sniper was already ready to aim at his head, waiting for the slightest movement. How do you defeat an enemy who can see you while you can't see them? How can I observe both the front and the back at the same time? How can you identify threats you wouldn't even consider? Donovan is now alone. He was a sniper with no support. His superiors told him to wait for a new teammate to be transferred in. But Donovan knew that he had only been assigned one other person to witness his death. He ranked 24th on the list, but the exact time frame is still unclear. On the 3rd night after Chen's death, Donovan was sorting through his personal belongings. It wasn't my gun because it was perfectly clean, but my personal kit. He took out a standard razor bag. When opened, inside were a bar of soap, a worn-out razor, and a small 46-inch mirror. The mirror has a military-grade metal frame. He held it, looking at his reflection, feeling tired. He was 22, but looked like 40. He looked from the mirror at his gun on the bed, then from the gun back at the mirror. Suddenly, an idea struck me. A crazy, desperate, yet clever idea. What if we could use a mirror to see behind us while still being able to see straight ahead? This idea is crazy. It completely contradicts every rule in the book. Modifying a sniper's equipment without approval from superiors. That's how you get sent to the military base. But Bradley is dead. Shun is dead. 23 American snipers are dead. Donovan didn't want to be the 24th. On the night of November 2nd, he worked alone. His unit was hiding in a hotel that had previously served as a stopover point. All that remains now is a framework of crumbling walls, collapsed ceilings, and shattered glass. The air filled with the smell of smoke, gunpowder, and damp plaster. He found a quiet corner on the 3rd floor, a room with a roof that was almost completely intact. He switched on a weak flashlight. On that cold November night, he could see his breath rising in the light. He took a mirror out of his bag. The 46-inch metal frame has some scratches, but is still reflective. He also took out a roll of electrical tape, a knife, and cut the wire. These are not the tools of the trade, but the tools of a desperate person. He placed 1903 Springfield on a table made of broken furniture. He aimed the AT&X, positioned 3 inches from the barrel and held in place by steel rings. The mirror must be mounted in a position where he can see himself. While keeping your eye on the scope, do not obstruct the operation of the weapon. It couldn't obscure his vision. He tried all the positions, and if it was too high, he had to look up from the scope. That was a fatal mistake. If it's too low, it will obstruct the gun's view. If you're too far ahead, the field of view becomes useless. After 20 minutes, the experiment was silent, and my hands were numb with cold. Finally, he found the perfect position, mounting the left side of the scope at a 45-degree angle, about 8 inches in front of his eye. From there, looking through the scope, he could see the mirror in his left peripheral vision, a small, shimmering image. With just a glance, without turning his head, he could see his side profile. He felt his hands tremble as he began the installation, not from the cold, but from the immense weight of what he was doing. This contradicts everything he has been taught. Unauthorized alterations to precision equipment, changes to military property, the lightest penalty being transferred to an infantry unit. carries a death sentence. The most serious consequence is suspension from prestige. But Chen's image kept appearing in the dim light. Chen gasped for breath, blood gushing from his chest, slowly dying. While Donovan merely stood observing, everyone else could see the scene from the side. Perhaps he is still alive today. Donovan cut the tape into strips. He wrapped the tape around the mirror frame to create a cushion, then continued wrapping more tape around the thickest part of the scope. The tape helps to cushion and hold things together. The mirror must remain in place throughout the gun's retraction process. It can't move, it can't creak. The installation process lasted 40 painful minutes. His freezing fingers kept slipping off the tape. The mirror kept sliding out of its intended position. On the two previous occasions, Donovan's gun had fallen to the ground, making a clattering sound on the crumbling floor. Each time this happened, his heart would race in his chest. If anyone heard him, if an officer came to check, he could be tied up and imprisoned before dawn. Ultimately, it held firm. He raised the rifle to his shoulder, closed the scope, focused on a dark spot on the distant wall, then glanced to the left. The mirror reflects the doorway, the hallway behind it, and the surrounding space. It works well. He wrapped the tape around the mirror frame 3 more times to make sure it was secure, creating a stable, flat surface. He checked the gun's balance. The mirror only added about 113 grams to its weight, a negligible amount. He checked that the aiming accuracy of the sight was still perfect. This invention looks so crude, like something a child could make, that it's clearly not factory-made equipment. Any officer inspecting the gun would recognize it immediately. But Donovan had no intention of letting any officer inspect his gun. He cleaned up the ice shards and put away his tools. It was 4 a.m. In 5 hours, he will be moving to a new location in the dilapidated industrial zone. This area was under the control of German snipers. Just last week, 3 American snipers were killed there. Tomorrow, Donovan will find out whether a scraping mirror can change the course of life and death. That morning, he met his new partner, Corporal Sam Martinez, 19 years old, from Texas. He had only been a sniper for 3 weeks, hadn't scored a single goal yet, but he had good instincts despite being very scared. As they moved outside in the gray light before dawn, Martinez noticed a strange object on Donovan's gun. He pointed and asked what it was. Donovan looked at him and replied, "Survive." Martinez didn't ask any further questions. At 6:47, they took their positions in a ruined bakery where Donovan had stood just a few days earlier. The south wall had vanished, revealing the street, but the bakery's old brick oven formed a sturdy fortress amidst the rubble. A crack in the wall allowed them a narrow view of the German factory complex 400 yards away. The terrain is perfect for sniping. Martinez was guarding the entrance. The Marin gunner is ready to pay attention to the Binduk infantry. Donovan leaned against his Springfield rifle. The morning mist began to dissipate. The factory emerged from the gray haze with broken windows, collapsed machinery, and piles of rubble. Somewhere in that pile of rubble, they are waiting. Donovan pressed his eye against the scope. The 8x magnification made the factory appear vivid and terrifying. He began scanning from left to right, slowly and methodically searching for overly dark shadows, looking for movement, looking for the small reflected light of his gaze on the enemy. His field of vision was narrow, confined to a cone 50 feet long and 400 yards wide, and that's what killed Bradley and Shun. They looked through his similarly narrow field of vision, unaware of what was happening around them. But now, Donovan has the mirror. At the edge of the left field of vision, a small, scratched, and distorted reflection appeared. It showed the street behind the ruined buildings across the road and on either side of him. Although not perfect, it is still something. At 7:23, he saw movement. The factory on the 3rd floor, a broken window, a shadow. Maybe it's rubble, maybe it's the wind. He kept his gaze steady, his breathing and movements reappearing. Human beings, they are definitely human beings. A spiritual being moves slowly and cautiously. A sniper is preparing. Donovan calculated the distance to be 410 yards. There was no wind. One shot was easy. His fingers tightened on the grass where the rifle was. He's almost finished with it. He saw a flash of light in the mirror, a tiny, almost imperceptible flicker. Moving behind him, across the street, was a building he thought was abandoned. Donovan's 3rd floor window doesn't move. He didn't turn around. He kept his eyes fixed on the scope, the gun aimed at the factory. But his entire world's attention was focused on the mirror. He observed the reflection and saw the light reflecting from his gaze. The dark barrel outline of a German sniper's rifle. He was aiming straight at him through the crack in the wall. He had probably been watching them for several minutes. Perhaps he's taking his last breath right now before pulling the trigger. This is that moment. The moment Bradley died. The moment Chin died. He focused on the target ahead while a sniper was stealthily preparing to fire. But Donovan saw him. The mirror worked its magic. He held the gun pointed at the factory and whispered. The voice was barely audible. "Martinez, a German sniper. The building behind us. Third floor, left window, he's targeting us right now." Martinez, thanks to his composure and lack of panic, simply moved slowly and smoothly. He raised his gun pistol, aiming at the building behind him, searching for a window. Martinez whispered, "I saw him." Don replied, "According to my count, I'll shoot him inside the factory. You shoot him behind us. 3, 2, 1, shoot." The Springfield rifle fired loudly. The jolt caused Donovan's shoulder to ache intensely. For 110 yards. The German man at the factory window stepped back, hitting the exact spot where he was standing, and he vanished from view. As soon as Donovan fired, Martinez fired too. Guerin's .306 bullet pierced the window frame behind them. The German sniper, who had been just seconds past them, fell, his rifle dropping from the window. 2 shots, 2 dead. In just 5 seconds, Donovan quickly reassembled Springfield's equipment, removed the hot shell casing, loaded a new round, and swept the site over again. The Mirror no longer saw any threat. They were safe. Martinez was breathing heavily, his adrenaline surging. He stared intently at Donovan. The German man intended to shoot him. He nearly shot him. How is that possible? Donovan simply tapped lightly on the crude, ice-covered mirror on the scope. Martinez stared at it for a very long time. "You need to attach this to every sniper rifle in the regiment." The fighting that morning lasted 4 hours. Donovan's team eliminated 6 German snipers. Donovan shot and killed 4 men, Martinez 2. And the Mirror saved their lives 3 more times. 3 times. Donovan spotted a target through his scope only to see another threat. A threat from the flank appeared in the Mirror. They always worked together brilliantly. Martinez dealt with the threat from the flank. Donovan fired at the target ahead. Germany's dual tactics proved ineffective. Their seemingly invincible system was shattered by a 10-cent piece of glass and some tape. By afternoon, the news had spread widely. Donovan's team suffered 6 deaths and no casualties. The other teams were very interested to know how to do this. Martinez told them about the Mirror. By evening, 3 more gunners from the platoon wanted to be equipped with this improved weapon. The first was Sergeant Frank Wilson, 28, from Montana, a true hunter. He lost 2 teammates within 3 weeks. Both were shot from directions they knew nothing about. That night, Wilson watched Donovan attach a mirror to his gun in the Golden Hotel suite. He asked many questions about the angle and placement of the installation. When Donovan finished, Wilson experimented by looking through the viewfinder and glancing in the mirror. He looked at Donovan and said, "Perfect, I should have thought of this." The following morning, Wilson's team confronted German snipers near the church. Wilson spotted the 2 gunmen using the mirror and eliminated both of them before they could fire. That evening, he returned excited, saying that this innovation had saved his life. He told all the village chiefs he knew. By November 8th, Donov had fitted mirrors to 9 of the guns. This improvement spread from one shooter to another, from one team to another. They no longer waited for Donovan, but instead made their own mirrors from readily available materials such as broken glass, shiny belt buckles, and even pieces of chrome cut from wrecked vehicles. The regiment's kill rate began to change. In October, American snipers in M lost 2 men to eliminate a German sniper. Odds of 1-2, a losing game. By mid-November, the score was 4-1 in favor of the U.S. 4 gunners were killed at Thursday Duck for every 1 American killed. But now Donovan faces a new problem. This innovation is no longer a secret. It has become commonplace. And on November 10th, the head of the department came to find out the cause. Captain Robert H., the commander of the Gunner Battalion, had served in the Army for 12 years. He was familiar with all the instruction manuals for marksmen. He conducted a standard inspection, checking the equipment and verifying the accuracy of the firearms. When he reached Donovan's position in the destroyed church tower, he saw Donovan, Martinez, and the mirror affixed to Donovan's Springfield rifle. "Stop," looked silently for about 10 seconds before pointing and asking, "What is that?" Corporal Donovan's stomach is tightening. This is what he fears most. Before the military court could even begin its proceedings, Martin spoke up. "It's a superfluous mirror, an improvement." Menace explained everything from Bradley and Chun to Germany's circling tactics. He talked about how the mirror helped them see the threats. He claims that it has saved their lives many times. Finally, he said, "It's absolutely not allowed." "Sir, but it works." H looked at Martinez, then at Donovan. He approached without shouting, silently examining the gun, checking the crude adhesive tape, and inspecting the angle of the mirror. He bent down, placed his eye through Donovan's sight, and glanced in the mirror. When he stood up, he understood. He looked at Donovan, his voice very gentle. "How many guns have this improvement?" Donovan's larynx dried up. "9 guns, sir, including mine." For a long moment, H was silent. Donovan prepared himself for an eye injury. But then H said something Donovan could never have imagined. "Tomorrow morning, I want every gunner in this battalion to have a mirror like that," the corporal ordered. He looked at Donovan and continued, "I'll take care of the paperwork. You just need to focus on keeping my soldiers alive." Donovan stood there in surprise. H, a man who always followed the rules, had just ordered him to rewrite the regulations, thus turning an unauthorized improvement into the battalion's official procedure. He understood that regulations were merely written words on paper, while his warriors were flesh and blood. He was willing to sacrifice his career to save the villagers. That night, Donovan couldn't sleep. He not only works, but also leads. He recruited Wilson, Martinez, and other shooters who had already made this improvement, instructing them on how to install the mirrors, the correct angles, the best positions, and how to use tape so that it wouldn't break when the gun recoiled. They worked through the night in underground tunnels and dilapidated buildings in Miz, a small, secret factory run by impoverished men. Some mirrors are attached with tape, others with savage electrical wire. A sharpshooter, a young farmer from Iowa, used leather straps he cut from the casings of German gas masks. The methods may vary, but the principles are the same. Gives the shooter a 360-degree field of view. On the morning of November 12th, every gunner in the battalion had a mirror on their rifle, and the German gunners went into a whirlwind. Their world changed overnight. Sandfark's seemingly unbeatable tactics have now become dangerous. They set up 2 firing positions from position A, hoping the Americans would be foolish enough to scan that area. But the American marksman didn't scan location A. Instead, he focused on location B through his rearview mirror. Time and again, the German gunners moving to second place were killed by a .306 bullet from an American gunner they thought they were cleverly outsmarting. Subsequent intelligence reports revealed confusion. German commanders in the U.S. wrote about the new and aggressive tactics employed by American marksmen. They reported that the Americans had attacked vulnerable positions that they should not have seen, and that they counterattacked before the German gunners could fire a second shot. Germany has been trying to adjust. They stepped back, attempting to engage from a distance of 600 to 800 shots. But that doesn't matter. The mirror reflected every movement, regardless of distance. They attempted a simultaneous sniper attack, hoping to overwhelm the American forces, but without success. American sniper teams working in pairs have now become virtually impenetrable. One man was looking straight ahead, while Martinez was observing the rearview mirror. Nothing can get past them. By the end of November, the unimaginable had happened. The German snipers, the terror of M, have stopped attacking. They began to stay away from the American sniper teams. The tactical advantage has not only changed, but has been conquered. However, this adjustment was never officially recognized by the military throughout the war. A training inspector noticed the rudimentary mirror in December 1944 and wrote a highly disgruntled report, criticizing the unauthorized modifications, violations of established procedures, and lack of standardization. This report circulated for weeks, and the officers behind the scenes debated how to handle the issue. On the one hand, this is a complete violation of the regulations. On the other hand, sniper teams using these mirrors have unprecedented survival and kill rates. In January 1945, an official assessment team from Abrin arrived in M. 3 officers and 2 civilian commentators inspected the sites, tested them, interviewed snipers, and assessed improvements in vision. They calculated their tactical advantage. Their conclusion was that these mirrors significantly enhanced survivability and needed to be immediately integrated into sniper doctrine. The group returned to the United States and wrote a formal recommendation. It is suggested that all sniper rifles should be fitted with peripheral mirrors. They even designed standardized mounting brackets for installation. They made it look like they had discovered an improvement. The name of Private First Class Michael Donovan never appears in the documents. Martinez's name is also correct. Even HC wasn't mentioned. Official records will show that military assessors identified a problem and developed a solution. The great villain H was furious. He tried to edit the records. He wrote letters and sent action reports after the battle. Make sure that Donovan's name appears in all of his battalion's documents. But those reports were lost, silently preserved within the vast bureaucratic machinery of a global war. The review team's version became the official version. Donovan learned of this in February 1945. An officer showed him the document and asked if he wanted to file a complaint. Donovan read it and found his idea appealing. A desperate bet made in the middle of the night was recorded by a committee. He just returned the paper and said no. He doesn't care about credit. What he cared about was whether the snipers were alive. Our comrades didn't die from shots they didn't see. The war in Europe ended on May 8, 1945. Donovan survived 11 months of fighting with 47 confirmed deaths. The mirror saved his life at least 6 more times. Martinez survived with 14 confirmed cases. After the war, he returned to Texas and became a police officer. For 30 years, he kept a photograph of Donov's gun on his desk. Wilson survived with 31 confirmed cases. The mirror saved him 4 times. He returned to Montana and became a hunting instructor. Donovan remained in the Army until 1946 and then returned to Pennsylvania. He found work in a factory, doing the same job he did before the war. He married in 1947 and had 3 children. He lived a rather quiet life, never speaking about the war. When people asked him, he would simply say, "I'm just a sniper, that's all." He didn't mention the mirror. He didn't mention saving the lives of dozens of snipers. He didn't mention changing the face of sniper warfare in Europe. That's not humility. He simply didn't think it mattered anymore. By the 1960s, the practice of adjusting photos with mirrors had fallen into disuse. The new scopes have better optical quality. The military's official history of sniper operations never mentions Donovan. His corner was removed not out of malice, but only because of time and the bureaucratic system. These on-site modifications are not considered to have historical significance. Official developments did occur, and the story seemed to have ended there. But no, in 1987, a military historian researching advancements in sniping found some very unusual references. In 1944, maintenance logs from the 5th Division mentioned homemade mirrors. The diaries mentioned a private first class, Donovan, the historian who spent months tracking down veterans from that unit. He found San Martinez, and Martinez told him all about Bradley, about Chin's terrible death, about Donovan installing mirrors in the darkness, about how it spread and saved them. The historian found Donovan. He was 67 years old at the time and still living in Pennsylvania. The historian asked him, "Did you install these mirrors?" Donovan replied, "Yes." The historian continued, "Why? Why have you never mentioned that?" Then the historian said to Donovan, "Based on the improved survival rate, that simple mirror 46 probably saved between 40 and 60 American snipers." Donovan was silent for a long time before saying, "I never counted. I only remember Martinez Wilson and the others returning." Michael Donovan died on June 7, 2001, at the age of 79. His obituary mentioned his service in World War II, but made no mention of the mirror or the dozens of lives he saved. His funeral was small, attended only by family, a few friends, and 4 elderly men his family didn't recognize. After the ceremony, they introduced themselves. They were snipers, people whose lives had been saved by the mirror. They had read about Donovan's passing for veterans' newsletters and driven hundreds of miles to pay their respects to ensure his family knew of his legacy. Today,